Let's unbox the Funko Pop vinyl, a Smuggler's Bounty exclusive Hoth Han Solo with Tauntaun Deluxe figure. Villa Varykino. If it's Star Wars, we collect it. Hello there, thanks for visiting Villa Varykino. At a recent local convention here in New Zealand, I recently picked up two very cute Funko Pop vinyl Tauntaun Deluxe figures, one with Luke Skywalker and this one with Han Solo. I love Tauntauns. These two were sadly missing from my collection, so I was really excited when I spotted them at a dealer booth for a bundle price. So as you can see, this one is a little bit faded, but it is a Smuggler's Bounty exclusive, which were sadly very hard to source here in New Zealand. So I'm really excited to finally have this one in my collection, and I can't wait to open it and get it on display. So thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Coming up really soon, I'll get this adorable Tauntaun with Han Solo out of the packaging so we can take a closer look. But first, let's take one last look at the packaging. This is an older second-hand item, so the box does have some wear and tear from its former life, but I do still like going over the details of the packaging for record keeping for my own collection. We've got the Funko Pop vinyl logo here at the top, a little bit faded, the Star Wars logo, and we can see that this is number 125. This is going back a little ways. So we've got this really cute image here of Han Solo in his Hoth gear riding a Tauntaun. We have the red stripe here, a little bit faded again, that reads Hoth Han Solo with Tauntaun. Thought it was really interesting that later on, when we finally got the matching Luke Skywalker with Tauntaun, it doesn't mention Hoth at all, even though Luke is of course wearing his Hoth gear. I guess Skywalker is a much longer surname than Solo, so they couldn't fit Hoth there on the front. And of course we have the exclusive Smuggler's Bounty sticker there as well. As I mentioned, it was a lot harder for us to get Smuggler's Bounty items here in New Zealand, so I'm slowly going through tracking down some of those harder to find items to add them to my collection. We've got a really nice window here on the front, like all of the deluxe boxes. It also wraps around to the side where we can see the really cute face of the Tauntaun inside. And we also have a little bit of a window there on the left hand side as well. We've got a nice clear little image there of the Funko Deluxe figure there with Han Solo riding the Tauntaun. And of course we also have it on the other side here as well. We have the name here down here, Hoth Han Solo with Tauntaun. It always throws me off a little bit having Hoth. I often don't sort of recall the planet names being in front of a lot of the other Star Wars characters. I think perhaps Funko stopped doing that for some of the modern ones. We often just have the planet in like a bracket, parentheses after the character name these days. Nice big Star Wars logo, 125 being the number of course. Hoth Han Solo with Tauntaun. We can see the brighter, vibrant colors here on the box. The back of the box isn't as faded as the front. With the Pop logo, a really cute little drawing here of Han on his Tauntaun with sort of a snowy Hoth background here. And we can see some of the other figures that were released around the same time. Zuckuss, Luke Skywalker Endor, Yoda Dagobah, Princess Leia Hoth, Luke Skywalker Hooded, and Gurinden Empire Spy. You can see all of these ones where there is a planet variation. They are in brackets after the character name. So again, I'm kind of curious why they didn't put Hoth in brackets after Han Solo for this one, because you can see that is generally how they do that. But yes, on the underside, just the sort of standard barcode and copy text there. And on the top, a little bit dusty because it is a secondhand item, we've got this lovely big window here letting in light, which is great if you want to keep yours boxed. And again, a cute image there of Han Solo on his Tauntaun and the Pop vinyl logo there. So overall, I was pretty impressed with the condition of the box, being a slightly older item, a little bit faded, but the cardboard is all nicely intact, no major damage to the windows there. But generally speaking, especially with my deluxe figures, the boxes do take up a lot of space. So I like to open up my Funko Deluxe figures to display them, and then I put the boxes away in storage. So it's definitely time to get this one out so I can check out all of the cute details of this Tauntaun. As usual, I'm going to open up my Funko Deluxe box from the underside here. Just going to pop that flap open and we can see the underside. Of course, this is probably not the first time this particular figure has been opened because it is secondhand, but it's my first time opening this. So let's open this one up. Let's get it out of the plastic tray. It's really clicked in there actually. There we go. Finally got that out. And here, oh, okay. This was back in the era where they weren't glued on. Wow, okay. I was not expecting that. I do have quite a few Funko from that older era, but I didn't realize this one was actually back in that era where they sat on their pegs. Okay, so let's get the packaging out of the way so we can get this one assembled and we can go over all of the details. But look how cute it is. I'm so excited to finally have this one out of the box. So, of course, this is Han Solo on his Tauntaun. I recently unboxed the matching Luke Skywalker with his Tauntaun, so I can already see some similarities in terms of the sculpting. I'm really keen to get them side by side to see if they really are exactly the same sculpt. Of course, the Tauntaun itself is a little bit different. Luke's has a little bit of a missing horn on that one, so there will be some differences, but I'm keen to see the similarities. I'm hoping they're going to look like a really good match when I get the two of them side by side for display. So let's start out with this one. So of course, as you saw when I was taking it out, this one actually comes off the base, which I guess I just hadn't remembered that a lot of my early ones were on these sort of studs where you could take them off their bases. And of course, even the deluxe ones would have that same sort of attachment style. So once it's all punched down, it fits there pretty nice. You can see we've got a nice sort of join there between the figure. I have one or two of my very old ones where they don't match up very well, so they're kind of a little bit hovering off the base. Very sad because some of those older ones are very hard to replace or, you know, buy a second one with today's market prices. But I like the fact that this one fits very nicely. And of course, we have a very similar base style to the Luke Skywalker one. We've got this lovely flat glossy surface here. It's really shiny. I love it. And we've got the sort of snowy, sort of bumpy, not at all even edging to it, which really makes it look like it's a section of Hoth, which is really nice. And here on the front, we have a flat section there with the Star Wars logo printed in silver, very much like the classic black bases that we have for the standard Funko figures that have the silver Star Wars logo there. Some of the other modern deluxe figures have sort of a raised 3D Star Wars logo. I prefer this printed one. It always just looks a little bit more tidier and to me matches more closely with the standard line. So really happy to see this one here on the front. And I think it's interesting that the Star Wars plaque is directly underneath the Tauntaun's face, which would kind of indicate that this is the front of the figure rather than as the box art would depict, sort of posed this way where Han Solo's face is sort of the front. So I'll probably have mine sort of tipped a little bit to the side so I can see this really cute Tauntaun face, see the Star Wars logo, but still see a little bit of Han Solo here at the back. So starting off with the Tauntaun, I really like the cute faces. The Funko big black eyes work so well for creatures and sort of the cuter characters. You know, sometimes for these sinister characters, the sort of big round eyes, it looks a little bit unusual, but for Tauntauns, it really works here. And of course, we've got the little horns, the very big horns, which look like they are sculpted separately, and they are very glossy. I don't know if they were this glossy on the Luke Skywalker one there. I really like that. We've got sort of a little pink little mouth or tongue here at the front, really cute. And I really like the sort of the dry brushing sort of weathering that we've got over the Tauntaun. You can really see it here on the side where we've got a little bit of a sort of additional paint layer to really accent the sculpting of the Tauntaun fluff. We've got a little bit here of a paint floor on the back where we've got a little bit of yellow touching there. It's not exactly the same yellow as this, and this actually looks like more of a plastic than a paint, so I'm not quite sure where that yellow's come from. But yes, it's right in the back. I'm probably never going to see that once I get it on display. We've also got that little pink tip to the tail there. We've got the painted claws there. We've got the little pink hands there at the front. I like the sort of the gold for the sort of reins here attaching to a bit that of course we would use to control the Tauntaun here. We've got the reins coming all the way back to Han Solo's hands. His hands on this one are just a little bit loose. I can see where that might be pulled a little bit because of course the hands are sculpted as part of the reins being added on, but it's pretty well joined. I'm certainly not going to tug on these, But overall, I think this is really cute. Of course, we can see that really nice painting effect to really highlight the fur of the Tauntaun on the sides there. Really nice. It's sort of grey, and then you can sort of see the sort of the sponging or dry brushing effect over the top. It's really nice. Don't often see that on a lot of my modern Funko Pop vinyl figures there. And of course, we've got Han Solo looking to the side. Kind of interesting that they didn't make them sort of look further forward, sort of facing towards the front. I think the line of his goggles, he would still have been looking over the top, but he kind of looks like he's searching around the horizon, looking for Luke Skywalker as he's riding along. So I kind of like him tipped to the side there. And of course, he is wearing his iconic Hoth look with his hood up, and he's got goggles. What I think was interesting is, of course, I unboxed the Luke one most recently. He had his goggles worn across at the top and they were painted. You can kind of see here, if I bring it up closer, that these are a translucent plastic worn over the face, so we can see the Funko eyes through the clear plastic there. It's a little bit tinted, but we can see the classic Funko black eyes underneath the goggles there, which is really fun. I can see from the side the goggles are sculpted in this plastic, kind of inserted over the top, and then we have a white painted trim line. I know he's bobbling around there a lot, and we can see that. Really, really cool. I think it's fun that the figures are still quite bobbly, and I can wobble him a lot and he's not hitting the Tauntaun, which I do like. I do get anxious. There have been a few that I've unboxed recently where if you wobbles the head around, they do hit. So I do worry about sort of paint loss or just scratching over time, but there's a good clearance there. I probably have to get really dramatic to really get him to hit there. And of course, it's kind of sad, but I do understand why. But the Tauntaun head does not bobble. It is completely fixed in place, and I also can't turn it. It's going to be glued in place very sturdily, facing towards the front in this fixed pose. It's kind of more scenery, shall we say, than the character of Han Solo here. And we've got all of his other good painted detail here with his costume there. We've got his quilted brown jacket. We've got all the details here of his boots, little holster here on the side, little scarf. We've even got the little silver belt details here worn across the back. And of course, around here on the other side, we can see the boots, the pants, the quilting detail of his jacket there. Just fantastic. And of course, we've got the sort of the faux fur, sort of a fluffy effect here around his hood as well. And we've got some painting here of the sort of supplies on the saddle of the Tauntaun there as well. Just so cool. Overall, really good. I'm happy to finally have this one in my collection. I know over time, sometimes you're going to get ones that have been not well cared for or just very expensive. This one, the dealer did me a bundle deal on the two of them, so I was able to get them for a really reasonable price. Certainly a lot less than it would have cost me to source this Smuggler's Bounty exclusive when the time it was released. So for a little bit of fading on the box, I'm really happy with this one. The figure itself looks just absolutely amazing. There isn't like damage to it. Of course, I can see a few little spots, of course, with the painting errors that we generally do find fairly commonly with Funko Pop vinyl figures. I've come to accept that. And of course, the major ones like that little yellow spot on the tail are going to be completely hidden. Even if I display it from the side or from the front, I'm never going to see it. So that doesn't bother me. So this is so cute. I love the face of the Tauntaun. A really nice Hoth Han Solo figure there as well. I really like the clear lenses showing his eyes through it, and of course he bobbles really well. So I'm just going to quickly grab my Luke Skywalker on his Tauntaun so we compare the two side by side. So here we have my new Deluxe Tauntauns side by side. This one is Luke Skywalker on Tauntaun number 366, and this one is Han Solo on Tauntaun number 125. There is a period of time between these. This one came out first, this one came out later, but we can see for the most part there is a lot of similarities, especially in the sculpting. I guess it was just easier to reuse the Tauntaun figure between the two releases there. The bases look very much the same. We still have the same printed Star Wars logo there on the front. I just really like how well these two look side by side. Of course, the Tauntauns themselves are a little bit different. We've got the cut horn on this one, which is accurate. but the horns on this one are actually very glossy compared to the matte finish of this one here as well. We've got a little bit of difference in the sort of colorings. This one has a bit more of a pink tone to all of the elements, like the ends of the tail, the sort of paws here at the front, and the nose, and a little bit in the ears as well. It has a much more sort of stronger pink tone. This one's a little bit more beige in those accent tones. And of course, this gloss horn with this sort of softer matte finish one there is really quite different. And of course, the actual painting of the Tauntauns is very different. If I turn them to the side, they both look grey to the eye, but this one, under this lighting and with my eyes here in person, this one looks a lot more blue, and the dry brushing over the top is a lot more obvious. The weathering effect that they did on this release here is more like a wet accent, and you can kind of see it really sort of highlighting some of the thighs, but it was lesser evident on some of the other parts, and it looks more like it's sort of applied wet and it's sort of pulled into the recesses to sort of accent the fur sort of sculpting here, whereas I much prefer the sort of the dry brushing technique used on this one. It just highlights the fur sort of texture a lot more, and I think it's really interesting that we've got the similarities here with all of the sort of the harness details. We've got a gloss brown here, again a sort of a matte finish plastic, different accent colors for the sort of bedroll and things like that. This one's got this sort of the straps here painted, this one does not. And we can see that the figures themselves are actually posed very, very similarly. And I can see some details like sort of the knee pads and stuff like that, because of course it is Rebellion cold weather gear. There are similarities between their two costumes, but they are unique. They aren't just sort of copy pasted with a different head on them. They are, you know, supposed to match the characters, which is all neat and cool. We've got the goggles here and one up there on the Luke one, which of course I really like, just having a little bit of difference there. They both bobble really well. It's just really interesting. I wasn't expecting to notice just how much sort of a difference there would be. Of course, not being made at the same time, I expect plastic and paint color and stuff like that to sort of change, but it's just really fun finally seeing these two side by side. The deluxe boxes do have windows at the top to let in light, but because they are clamshelled with so much plastic sort of around them, it does kind of obscure a real true sense of color and detail until you really get them all out and get them under good lighting and see them side by side. I'm really happy with the way that these two look together. They don't look like sort of a carbon copy where it's like, okay, those are just, you know, they used exactly the same figure. I like the fact that there is painting differences, so they really do look like two different animals standing side by side, because of course no two animals look exactly alike, you know. I like the fact that there's just little differences. Maybe one of them is a boy, maybe one of them is a girl. I think that that's really quite fun, just having them side by side. I love the Tauntauns in Star Wars. I love the creatures of Star Wars, and unfortunately they are very big, so it's hard to collect them in very many scales other than small action figure scale. But Funkos are kind of a really interesting scale. They're not truly to scale with each other. Obviously, with the size of a Funko figure, a real Tauntaun would be taller, but we kind of get the odd Funko scale where everything's kind of, you know, cartoonified with big heads and sort of smaller bodies. So I like the proportion and the scale that they've chosen to do these Tauntauns. I think it really works. I feel like the Tauntauns themselves are probably a reasonable scale for the bodies, obviously not to the heads of the figures, but overall they just look really cool together. I know there is sort of a wounded Tauntaun figure out there in the Funko range. I'm not as much of a fan of that one because I think they're cute. I much prefer to have happy, smiling Tauntauns for my collection. So these are the two that are going to go in my collection. I don't really feel like a burning need to add that other version to my collection. I think these two are a perfect matching set. I really like them. I'm really happy that even the whites look the same. Of course, they were secondhand. You never know how well the previous owners might have looked after them, but they look the same. The white, it looks great. It hasn't yellowed. These things aren't scratched. They look Oh, I'm just really, really happy finally getting something that's been on my wish list for a long time, and it's cute and it's adorable, and I'm so happy to get it, and at such a fantastic price. I love the little differences, all of the details, just absolutely fantastic. Another cute Star Wars Tauntaun for my collection. Don't they just look so cute together? So thank you so much for hanging out with me today as I opened up another Star Wars collectible, checked out all of the details, and had a lot of fun. I hope you have a wonderful morning, afternoon, or evening wherever you are in the galaxy, and let's hang out again very soon for more Star Wars fun. May the Force be with you. If you're a Funko fan, I recently unboxed the Probe Droid Deluxe figure. That video is linked here in case you haven't already seen it, as well as a whole Funko unboxing playlist. This is the way.